The main focus this week is to build a retaining wall in the garden out of railway sleepers. The plans keep changing on how this is working, but let's just get into it. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a quick diagram of how this is going to work. And I think it'll be easier to explain if I draw it. So I'm just going to draw it on this wall because it's being knocked down. So if we imagine this is the house, well, this is the back wall of the house and this is the garden. This is the extension here. This is obviously a bird's eye view. So here you've got patio, you've got a fence here, comes up to about there. Then you've got the walls of the garden, which aren't actually in line with the house. They kind of go off to the side slightly. So that is the end of the garden. So you've got patio here, and then there's just some sort of concrete carnage going on over here. And then there's that concrete path that I discovered that goes like this up the garden to the end. There's also a drainage inspection pit about here. The original plan was to put a sleeper wall from here all the way across to here, avoiding the inspection pit, cutting through the concrete path. However, when I went to dig the trench for the sleepers, I discovered this underground brick structure that had been previously buried. I was hoping it was an old foundation for a shed or something that I could just knock down, but it turns out... Oh, it's a fucking drain. Not what I wanted it to be. So now the plan is going to be that I'm going to put the sleepers... I'm going to put one sleeper here, right up against this concrete path and avoiding that. Then I'm going to put another one at whatever angle that turns out to be there. Then I'm going to cut through this concrete path and I'm going to have another one here. So we're going to end up with a sort of slight zigzag so that we can avoid both the drainage inspection pits. And that's kind of the plan. So once I've put this wall in, all of this soil that's currently in different sized mounds across the garden, I will level all of that out so it comes up to the back of this wall, and then I'll put turf over the top, and then probably down here I'm gonna have flower bed and maybe at the back, but we'll see. I've still got a massive stump in the corner that I need to get a stump grinder for. The big challenge of building this wall is basically building it in a way where these aren't gonna just rot. What I need to do is create really good drainage underneath and waterproof these in a way that they should last for years. So what I plan to do is basically dig a trench, fill that with MOT type 1, which if you don't know is like a sort of gravel mix that drains really well basically. So I'll put a couple of centimeters of that MOT type 1 down. Then I'm gonna put a couple of sort of plinths of cement, maybe 3 or 4 for each sleeper, and then put the sleeper on top of that and then tap it down so I can level it all out. I'm also going to be painting the bottom and the back of these in black bitumen paint, which is like a super thick waterproof paint. So the soil behind the wall that the wall is retaining, when it's pressed up against the sleeper and is obviously going to be damp, it's not just going to cause that sleeper to rot over time. Hopefully that waterproof paint is going to prolong the life of these sleepers. Now these sleepers weigh about, well, I'm not going to guess, but they weigh quite a lot. And I'm obviously a one-man band. Oh my God, they weigh a ton. Holy shit. Okay. Oh God. Oh God. This is the paint I'm going to be using. It's a black bitumen paint and is supposedly meant to be super waterproof. So I think I need to do 2 coats and I'm going to leave it 24 hours between each coat to dry. Whether we do that, we'll see. So I'm going to get a paint roller and crack on. I don't want any of the paint to be visible when these are installed, so I left a 2 centimeter gap at the top. That is black paint. I'd planned to use MOT Type 1 as the base for underneath the sleepers, but I remembered I had gravel mixed in with the soil at the back of the garden, so I thought I'd save myself some money and sieve this out and use it instead, especially as the sleepers won't be load bearing anyway. When it comes to the concrete path, I want to be cutting a nice clean line about here where the sleeper's going to sit behind it. But I've never used an angle grinder before and I've never cut through concrete before. So I'm going to do a practice cut here because everything this way is just waste material and it's going to be buried anyway. So I'm going to try and do a cut here and see how it goes basically. As you can see, I've managed to cut quite a clean line, but it's not gone all the way through. It's probably about half the depth, and that's as deep as I can go with that angle grinder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to smash up this part with the SDS drill, and hopefully I can just chip away this half and leave a trench and not chip this side. So that's worked pretty well. This was just like a proof of concept, so I don't need to do the whole of this bit of the path, but it shows that I can basically cut a nice straight line and then smash up this half of the path, and we should still be left with a relatively chip-free line. So now I've just got to do the real one. I need to make sure that the ground underneath the sleepers is as solid as possible, so I went round with a spade and tried to compact the soil as much as I could. I then employed the help of 3 of Bristol's most glamorous assistants to help me move these huge sleepers into place.
Where are we going?
Right, let's just lay it down up here. Well done, team. Bit further towards you. Well, back towards me a little bit. Towards you a tiny bit. Towards me a tiny bit. There, stop. Okay, yeah. Now that we put this sleeper in place, we need to work out what angle we're going to cut this at so that we get a nice join between each 3 pieces. So I'm going to use a plumber's rule, which is just like a big protractor basically, and measure the angle down here. And then we think we're doing this correctly, but not 100% sure. Going to take half of that angle and scribe that onto this piece, then cut that angle and then do the same with this middle piece, and hopefully we should get a nice join in the middle. Because these pieces of wood are so large, the cutting process was a bit of a faff. I tried using the miter saw, but it wasn't big enough. So I ended up setting my circular saw to the correct angle, and then making a first pass on the top, flipping the piece over, and then making a second pass. I then used a wood saw to get through the middle bit. I repeated this process for each angle and each cut until I had 3 pieces that were ready to test fit. So I've now got all 3 pieces cut and I've put them in place and sort of like checked them out. But because of the way I ended up cutting them with the circular saw and with the hand saw, the surface is like not particularly smooth. So what I've done is I tried using a chisel, I tried using a random orbital sander, but neither of them really worked. So I've gone and bought a belt sander from Screwfix. Again, not sponsored, but Screwfix, I love you if you want to reach out. And just use that to sand the faces down. I haven't done this one yet, just so that they mate a little bit better. The next thing I got to do is mix up some cement. So I'm going to use a 5-to-1 mix. So that's 5 parts builder's sand, 1 part cement, plus water and plasticizer. And I'm going to create little plinths. So like for this one, I'll probably have 4 or 5 little plinths on top of the gravel. I'll place the sleeper on top of that, and then I can tap it to make it level and hopefully line them all up. So I'm going to do this first one and this little one first, get them into place, screw them together and cement them down, and then I'm going to do this one, because trying to get them all to line up perfectly without actually fixing them down is proving a little bit complicated. So next job is cement and get these in place. So it's the day after I finished the wall now, and the concrete's gone off nicely. It's all looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm probably going to sand down these edges just to make sure it's nice and flush, but I think today I'm going to level out all of the ground and get it pressed up against the wall, hope it retains as it's meant to, and make this garden nice and flat and hopefully look a bit less landfill site and a bit more garden. It's the end of the week and the garden is looking much better than it did at the start of the week. I've leveled all the soil out. I've still got a big pile in one corner that I'm hoping to get rid of this weekend. But yeah, the project's gone pretty well. I'm very happy with how it's looking. Now I just need to get some turf down, get the stump grinder to grind out that stump in the corner. And then, well, actually there's loads more to do. I got to do the fencing and I got to do the patio. But the actual gardeny bit, once it's got turf down, it's going to look pretty good, I think.